Next, we're going to get to work on our whole grain stuffing. You know, at a lot of holiday dinners, they have 3 stuffings. But we're just going to have 1. And we're going to start out with some celery and onion, which I've pre-diced. And we're going to do what we call sweat this. And sweating means that you're cooking it. I'm not going to use any butter or oil in here. Thought that would have been hotter, but anyway. And put that in there, and I'm going to put the lid on. And so sweating is basically steaming and getting things tender. We don't need it too tender, just a firm crispness. Okay, so let's get this stuffing going here. I like to put carrots in my stuffing, and most people don't do that. These are peeled, of course. No fingertips, please. One more. Okay, so we got our carrots in there, and now we're going to get our bread ready. Now, a lot of people use white bread, of course, and I'm going to use whole wheat. We have 6 slices of whole wheat. Of course, when you buy your serrated knife, best knife to cut bread is a serrated bread knife. So a lot of people, when they make stuffing, like I said earlier, they have 3 stuffings. They might have oyster, they might have potato bread stuffing, or I guess you put real potatoes in potato stuffing, and they might have plain. Don't you think that's a little excessive? That's the trouble with holiday dinners that feature turkey, is that everybody always surrounds the turkey with starch and sugar. So we're using whole grain, which means that it has the word whole or 100% right in front of the ingredients. So in other words, it's whole wheat, whole oats, whole. That means it's whole. You can't, just because it says whole wheat on the label doesn't always mean that it's truly whole wheat. Now this bread I'm putting in is an 8-grain whole wheat from a private bakery, and it's really sturdy, you might say. And I don't use this 100% in my stuffing because it does make the stuffing a little bit more dense, but this will put a really nice nutty texture into our stuffing. It's got the grains, extra flavor. Now we're going to put some eggs in here, of course. Stuffing always has eggs. And as you know, I like to use substitutions. So we're going to put 1 whole egg, and then we're going to put 4 ounces of egg whites, which is equal to 2 more eggs. And then we're going to put some parsley in here. And when I make stuffing, a lot of times spice blends or dry seasonings in a jar are good choices. But for stuffing, I really like to use the fresh. I'm going to put some parsley in here. I have the stems picked off. It's washed. Here comes the noise level. But I think in your stuffing, this makes a really big difference to use fresh herbs. And now I'm going to use also my 3 favorite herbs, which are rosemary, and this is the rosemary. I have some of it picked already, but we'll just slide the leaves right off the stem. And then the ends, which are very tender, you don't have to really worry about them. So we have rosemary, and then thyme, and sage. And sage is actually a little bit different, a little bit difficult to chop with that famous chopper. So if you get it started like this, because the sage leaves are kind of flat and rubbery, if you get it started like this and then get the chopper over it to finish it off. It's great for stress. There's a lot of stress in being a TV personality, you know. Oops, I want to save some of that for our sauce. I almost put it all in. Let's set that aside for our sauce. And last but not least, no, it's not last but not least, but next is dates. And these are already chopped dates. You know, convenience foods are really handy. But you want to be very picky about which convenience foods to use. A lot of times, well, we could have bought our stuffing already cut, our bread, but you know, you're just going to get plain old white bread. So if these dates, they're just as good chopped by somebody else as they are chopped by me. But the bread is better off cutting it in cubes by me. So how hard is it to cube up bread, really? So make good choices when you're picking your convenience foods. Dates. Oh, we're missing our vegetables. Let's see what's going on. So these were sweated and just lightly cooked. Add them in. You do want to be careful that you don't cook your eggs when you add these in. That's why I put the eggs in first. Now dates grow on a palm tree. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen a date. It's like a little finger-shaped fruit. It grows in Africa, in the Middle East. What do I need next here? Stock. Now earlier we cooked our stock and put it in the freezer. And as you see, now if we froze this overnight, which is what I usually like to do, at least refrigerate it overnight, the fat would solidify. But in this case we only gave it a little while, so we're just going to try to skim as much of it off as we can. Normally I do like to do it overnight so that I can get all the fat off. Defatted chicken stock. So this is 3/4 of a cup, give or take a cup or two. I hope that's enough. Looks a little dry. And what happened to my spoon? And just toss this around. Now when you make stuffing outside of the bird, which is what we're doing here, your bird cooks quicker. I didn't have to get up at 5 in the morning, you know. I put that turkey in and it's done in 2 hours. And that's partly because I didn't stuff it and partly because I put it in a baking bowl. But also I can make my stuffing yesterday and put it in the refrigerator in my casserole and then just put it in the oven an hour and a half before dinner. I don't have to do everything at the last minute. Well, that was just perfect, wasn't it? I had the perfect size. Isn't that pretty? Okay, now I don't want to get a crust on it. That's one of the things about, did I tell you that we put a little more moisture in here because we're not cooking it in the turkey? You know, a lot of times the turkey puts liquid into your stuffing. You put a dry one when you put in, but when you do it like this, you want to make it a little moister so that it some of that dryness or moisture goes away while it's cooking, and then it won't be dry later. Now I'm going to put parchment paper on this so that I don't get a crust on top. And if you don't have parchment paper, you can use a brown bag. You just cut it the same shape as your loaf pan, and when you take a brown bag you just lightly oil it with some vegetable oil so that it soaks all the way through, and then you lay it on the top of your stuffing. So we're going to bake this for 1 hour, and it cooked up very nicely. We didn't get a crust on top because we put this nice piece of parchment paper on. And look at the color in that stuffing. It has the carrots, celery, and a lot of beautiful herbs. So we'll just put that to the table. And this. Oh, it smells great. It smells just like it was baked in the turkey. But you know what? I didn't have to get up at 5 in the morning to do this because I did some pre-prep and I baked my stuffing on the side. It's not really one of the best ideas to bake your stuffing in your turkey because you do have to cook your turkey a lot longer. Most of the time the meat's overcooked and you can't set it up ahead of time. This way I could set it up the day before. You never stuff a turkey and keep it in the refrigerator overnight stuffed. It's very unhealthy. Good opportunity for bacteria to develop. But our whole wheat bread here and our whole grain bread put a nice robust texture into our stuffing and gives you a nice earthy flavor.